I'm going to be finishing this end room I started building in Minecraft and reading Reddit stories while I do so. This is my first time doing this, so my inflections and reading probably won't be top notch, but let's get into it. Am I the asshole for asking my boyfriend to not stick chopsticks upright in his rice? I tried to post this in the relationships advice community, but I got an error message that it should be here. I'm Japanese, 40 female, and in my culture, sticking chopsticks upright into a bowl of rice is considered disrespectful because it is traditionally done at funerals or as an offering for the dead. Today, at home, my boyfriend, 36 male, who is non-Japanese, stuck his chopsticks vertically into his rice. I politely told him that it is considered disrespectful in my culture and asked if he could lay them across the bowl instead. He immediately said it was silly and refused, saying they'd fall off. I told him they wouldn't, but then he said he wasn't eating Japanese food, so it didn't matter. I explained that it isn't about the food, it is about how the chopsticks are placed. He responded that we're not in Japan and he wasn't changing what he was doing because he thought it was silly. I calmly said I was only asking for a small favor out of respect for my culture. He then sharply replied, "Fine, I'll just use forks from now on." So I took the chopsticks away and handed him a fork. What upset me was how he immediately dismissed my request as silly instead of making such a small accommodation. I got quite angry and said, "You're just like all the other white people who love anime and collect figures but don't actually care about Japanese culture." He was shocked by that and later told me that I was petty, cynical, and intentionally trying to hurt his feelings. I gave an example of how whenever I have dinner with him and his family, they say grace before eating. I'm not religious and I didn't grow up doing that, but I do it anyways because I know it's meaningful to them. He responded that religion and culture aren't the same thing. He also told me that during couples counseling, our counselor said we shouldn't have expectations of each other. I told him that's not why I was upset. I'm not angry because he didn't meet an expectation I had. I'm upset at how he immediately dismissed my request as silly and refused to make such a small gesture out of respect for my culture. So, Redditors, am I the asshole for asking him to not put chopsticks upright in rice since we are not living in Japan? If you want my personal opinion, I don't see why. Did she say fiance or husband? Boyfriend. I don't see why her boyfriend can't just lay the chopsticks across the bowl. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. And if it upsets her that much, then I feel like it should just be second nature, just common sense. Oh, this upsets her. I'll just lay them across the bowl. I don't think it's that big of a difference. Happy wife, happy life. But let's get into the update. Wow, I did not expect this post to get so much attention. Thank you to everyone who took the time to read my post and leave a comment. A lot of the points you raised were valid, and reading your perspectives has helped me see the situation from a different angle. Here are some of the most common questions I've received. No, I'm not a bot, lol. This really happened. Why would I make stuff up? 2, we've been dating for 3 years and 9 months. That is a long time. Sorry to interject. That is such a long time to be with someone, and to think that he's making such a big deal over how he can't change his chopstick placement, it's just a little absurd. Not to mention, I mean, after 3 years, I bet he understands how much the culture she was raised in means to the OP, right? 3, he is Canadian and we live together. 4, this wasn't the first time I'd brought up chopstick etiquette. The first time I was just talking about some general chopstick taboos, and he wasn't actually using chopsticks. The second time was yesterday when I brought it up again after he did it. He said he didn't remember me mentioning it the first time. 5, regarding the counselor's comment, I was trying to keep my original post short as possible, so I apologize for lacking context, but my boyfriend clarified that he meant what he meant. The counselor said that we shouldn't expect each other to react or respond in a specific way. When we expect a certain response from our partners and they react differently, it can create issues in the relationship. 6, a lot of people said my comment to my boyfriend was racist. That was not my intention, but I understand why it came across that way. I take responsibility for making such a generalized and hurtful comment, and I've apologized to my boyfriend for it. I was kind of thinking, not that exactly, but something similar about the like westernized culture when it comes to anime and Japanese culture, and how people love to look at the glamorized things like the food or like anime and the figures and that sort of things, but they ignore the more important parts of the culture that actually mean something to the people that live there. And I think that's a valid claim. I think it's somewhat inherently racist, I guess, but I think it's more true than false, to the point where it's just something that is actually a problem. To clarify what I meant, what confused me was that he loves Japan, the anime and the food, but doesn't seem interested in learning what its culture and customs actually mean. It just felt strange to me that someone who claims to love Japan wouldn't also want to understand and respect the culture practices that are an important part of it. And that's kind of what I was talking about, like kind of cherry picking what parts of the culture you want to take part in and appreciate. It's just a little disingenuous. Number 7. My boyfriend has also apologized to me for how he handled the situation. We're both at work right now, so we'll be talking in person later. I'll continue reading your comments, and again, thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts. This has been a learning experience for me as well. I realize there are things I need to work on, especially with how I communicate, and I appreciate those of you who pointed that out. My priority now is to have a conversation with my boyfriend and try to resolve things together. All right, now let's get into some of the top comments. Not the asshole. Your couples counselor saying that you shouldn't have expectations of each other seems to be translated by your boyfriend to mean that he can do whatever he likes, and if you're upset, that is your problem. People certainly should have reasonable expectations of their partners, relatives, and friends. If you're in counseling, maybe take it as a sign that this isn't working out. That's a fair assessment. They're not even married, right? And, they're already in counseling. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but it does have its tells. And I think this commenter is completely right about their analysis of the boyfriend's response and the reasoning for it. I think he completely misunderstood what the counselor was saying about expectations and just kind of used it as a defense to justify his bad behavior. Here's another one. He can't do the smallest things possible to make you more comfortable. Doesn't matter if it's cultural or because it gives you anxiety or whatever. Small request, big gesture, bigger fight. That's the gist of it. And that's also completely true. This is such a small and insignificant thing that he just simply couldn't do. And to me, I think that speaks volumes. Do I see both sides? Yes, but I don't see the reason for the extremeness of his response. But all right, let's get into the next one. Am I the asshole because I wouldn't let my ex bring their partner to our daughter's funeral? Okay, so this happened years ago, but I've always wondered if I was justified in my behavior or was being stubborn over everything. So I guess it would be, was I the asshole? Our daughter was born with extensive heart conditions over the years. She had several surgeries to deal with it. Just after her 13th birthday in 2014, she had another round of surgeries. There were complications. She went into a coma and passed 5 weeks later. Her mother and I had been separated since 2004, and I had custody over her and her older then brother. Said older sibling came out as trans later. Since 2008, we discovered that her partner that she was living with was abusive towards both kids, and we had to get them out of that house. We got a court order, received custody, and she only had contact when he wasn't around since then. Ex and partner moved out of the province in 2011, only saw the kids once since then, when we drove out to see her to get some paperwork signed. When we held the funeral, I was adamant that her partner wouldn't be allowed to attend. I felt it was disrespectful to my youngest that the man she had been afraid of would attend, and that it would be upsetting to her older sibling to have him there also. Ex and partner drove back to the Provine the day before the funeral. Ex said that she needed him there for his emotional support through everything, but while she was welcome to the funeral, I wouldn't allow him to attend. I like to think that I was justified in not allowing him around after how he treated the kids, but I wonder if I should have been understanding to her needs at the time. If she really needed his support getting through everything, admittedly, I was not in the best place mentally/emotionally at the time, so I was being an asshole or was sticking to my guns the right thing to do. Honestly, in my opinion, I think the poster is completely justified. If this man was abusing your children, you have every right to not want him at your daughter's funeral. He has no, I guess, no right to be there, to be, especially since the daughter that died is the one he abused. And then the other kid he abused would also be there. That can't be good for that kid's grieving process and like getting over the death of his sibling. Being around their abuser, that that can't be healthy. I'd say not the asshole for sure. Let's read some top comments. Not the asshole. What even made either of them consider this was remotely appropriate given the history? Her quote needs should have been to protect her kids when he was being abusive and not to be there to support the remaining sibling. Had you been in a better place emotionally, you probably wouldn't have invited her at all, given that their only contact was like once in like 6 years, and you had to make the effort for that to happen. That's also true. I kind of forgot about that part. The kids only saw the mother once in like 6 years, and it was because of like court paper signings. Honestly, I agree with this comment. The mother getting invited at all is astonishing, really. Another one says, wow, my initial thought was that she would need her partner there for emotional support, but once I saw that he had been abusive to the kids, my opinion changed. I think you did the right thing. I'm so sorry for your loss. And again, I completely agree. There's really not much more that needs to be said about that. The OP was completely justified in their in their reasoning. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Am I the asshole for criticizing my cousin's use of my dead mom in her advertising? This is a throwaway account, and all names have been changed. My mom, Betty, died a couple years ago after a long, protracted battle with cancer. She survived by me, my sister, and my dad, as well as a very large extended family. My cousin, Julia, started a charcuterie business less than a year after my mom died, and she called it Betty Nora Charcuterie, which is a combination of my mom and my grandmother's names. Both of them are dead. The goal of the charcuterie business is to highlight the importance of family and how food brings people together, which is a noble cause, and the business has picked up quickly in her small town. Unfortunately, my sister and I have begun having some serious questions about my cousin's methods. First, she never asked any of us if she could use our mom's name in her business. Honestly, this doesn't bother me, but other things have been pretty weird. She's featured my mom's obituary portrait in her 4th of July holiday promotional advertisement. She edited my sister out of her own wedding pictures using AI to mesh together pictures of several deceased family into one portrait. She puts a framed picture of my mom on the table at every event next to her charcuterie events. She used cutout handwriting from a letter my mom wrote in her promotional material. She even hides a picture of my mom among the meat and cheeses so that whoever finds it gets a free mini tray or something like that. Recently, a big part of the family went on a family vacation together, and Charcuterie Julia created a group chat for us to share pics and plans, but then took those pictures and used them in her public-facing charcuterie website. This, along with random, quote, "We remember you, Betty," posts on Facebook about once a week or so have sent me and my immediate family into a minor tailspin. I set up a FaceTime call with Julia and my sister Isabel, but when we tried very gently to bring up the lack of sensitivity around the use of my mom's memory, she got defensive, offended, broke down, and hyperventilated until we decided to cut it short. We asked 3 things. Please take my personal photos off your website. Stop featuring a framed picture of our mom during random strangers' events, and don't use AI to edit the pictures of our mom. Apparently, she's been sent into a spiral about this. The day following the FaceTime call, she and her mom removed my sister as a friend on Facebook. I spoke with her mom, first by text, where she tried to shut me down and blame me. Quote, "You've said things you can't take back. Blessings while you grieve your mama, end quote. I call her the next day and she suggests I look at Julia's perspective. Said I should appreciate how the business brought her out of a depression, told me I need a grief counselor, wrote off my concerns about the use of my personal pictures in Julia's ads, told me that the family members don't need permission to post anyone's pictures online as long as they're family, and ultimately tried to negotiate down my 3 asks. I got pretty combative during the phone call because I was shocked that there was no moment of pause. In my eyes, I'd hoped they'd say, "Wow, you're really upset by what we've been doing, and we didn't mean to do that. But we want to see if we can change some specific things to take some of the sting out of this." Instead, it was, quote, "We're honoring your mother the best way we know how, and you're attacking us for it? Am I the asshole?" And before we get into some top comments, I don't think the OP is the asshole at all. Truly, I see that Julia has good intentions by what she's doing, but I feel like she's going too far, and it almost more seems like she's using the relatives' deaths for financial gain, especially in the AI photo editing, like editing out other family members just to emphasize the deceased ones, and hiding pictures of the deceased family members in the meat for some weird promotional. Those things just don't sit very well with me personally. But let's get into some top comments. Well, you tried. Time to get mean and nasty. A few couple public posts about what's going on and how you feel about it may stir some corrective action. That good PR she's been getting can turn sour pretty damn fast, not the asshole. And, that's true. I feel like people don't really have the insider knowledge on the situation, and that's why I feel like a lot of people don't point out the weirdness of it. But like this commenter said, one quick post telling the truth and they could change a lot for the business. Another one says Julia is overdoing it, not the asshole. And, short and sweet, simple to the point. But anyway, let's get on to the next one. Am I the asshole for not wanting to go to my brother-in-law's wedding? OP, 29 female. Boyfriend, 35 male. Mother-in-law, female 60. Father-in-law, male 61. Brother-in-law, male 33. And sister-in-law, female 30. For ease of explanation, it's easier to call everyone in-laws. We're not super close to either. In fact, brother-in-law has offended boyfriend on multiple occasions and expected extensive automotive work done for free. Boyfriend works in a shop and has worked on cars for years. We see them maybe 2 to 3 times a year, and they didn't even pass along gifts last Christmas for us through mother-in-law. Brother-in-law has annoyed and lied about pretty serious stuff to mother-in-law and father-in-law on multiple occasions, as well in terms of always prioritizing sister-in-law's parents for any occasion, while me and boyfriend visit at least once a month even when we're super busy. Mother-in-law even said that she'd much more help us pay to redo the bathroom or put a down payment on a new house versus pitching in for their wedding because we'd actually enjoy it and appreciate it. Wedding is a destination wedding that makes no sense in terms of their favorite locations, and both sides of parents have asked why they don't just do a honeymoon there instead of dragging everyone 8+ states over. Father-in-law's health also isn't the best, and he won't fly. Neither will boyfriend for cost and general fear of heights. They have asked them to do family ceremony local and then do their trip with their friends. Sister-in-law family is a tad bit pretentious, and even they feel it's a long distance to go for no reason. I know it doesn't matter how anyone else feels about it, it just doesn't make sense to me to pick a place that you've never been to. It'll cost at least $6,000 for me and boyfriend if you count hotel, flights, etc. We also always take a trip during that weekend every year to another location and have already booked a hotel for 2027. I don't think mother-in-law or father-in-law would care, as mother-in-law already said she understands if we can't make it work, but based on father-in-law really never leaving the house now, that's been a problem for a while since he won't see a doctor. Only mother-in-law would make it, and I'd honestly feel bad for leaving her alone. So it doesn't make sense for us to go financially, relationship state-wise, and pre-planned events already arranged. I just feel bad about mother-in-law, though she has made some peace about the reality of her and father-in-law's relationship with brother-in-law. Am I the asshole for not wanting to attend brother-in-law's wedding? Honestly, Personally, I'm going to say you're not the asshole on this one, especially because like he just constantly disrespects you and your significant other. That's more than enough of a reason right there to not go, but let alone making it multiple states away and not caring about the situation of anyone else who wants to come, anyone else important to him. It just overall seems like they're being very self centered and pretentious. And I understand it's their wedding and they can do it however they would like to. But if you value your family as much as they value you, you understand they want to be at your wedding almost as much as you want to have your wedding. And I feel like there's a mutual level of respect there that isn't shown by the brother-in-law in this story. But anyway, let's get into some top comments. One writes, destination weddings are stupid and arrogant. To expect that couples would pay several $1,000s for travel and lodging to attend a 1-hour event and then be served a mass-produced meal is a height of self-indulgence. Don't go. Send a gift, something of questionable utility that cannot be returned or refunded. Maybe a table lamp made of a mannequin leg with a garter around the thigh. I'd say that's a pretty good idea. Yeah, just sending a gift and not a good one. It's pretty funny. Another one writes, invitation does not mean a summons. Don't go and don't feel guilty not going. And I completely agree. There's absolutely nothing the brother-in-law or his significant other, presumably, has done that even shows that they value or want you at the wedding. And so in that instance, just don't go. There's no point in, feeding into their games. I think that's going to be all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and let me know what you enjoyed, and have a good one.